I'm 𝙊'𝙉𝙚𝙞𝙣, and you're listening to What the Heck Fintech, where you'll experience and learn that Fintech is FinLife. Let's get started. Welcome, everybody. You're in for such a huge treat today. We have Jim O'Neill here, and he is deep into the fintech ecosystem. He's been in big industry. He's done multiple startups. He has a great fintech startup going on right now that he's going to, we're going to fully talk about. And also, I mean, Jim and I go back a little bit. We met 3 years ago, I believe. 3 years ago. And
actually during COVID, so it might even be longer.
Oh yeah, might be four. That's right. And it was interesting the way we met. Jim actually reached out, WPI alum, which you can talk about as much or as little as he wants in this, WPI alum, and he reached out to Advancement. I'd like to, work with some of the students or whatever I can with, professors. So Advancement reached out to me because he's a fintech guy. But coincidentally, I was reaching out to Ian Sheridan, who also is, knows Jim well and everything with his startup. And both things happened literally in the same week. It was so odd, right? So then obviously we got together, we did some great things with the students and had a blast. And Jim and I still, collaborate together. And recently we just did an event at the Fed at Boston FinTech Week last fall, a reimagined career fair, which we might or might not talk about in this podcast. But Jim is just making it happen in the fintech ecosystem.
Doing our best.
Is doing your best. So here, Jim, I'm gonna hand off to you. I won't do it justice. I'll do an overview. We're gonna go deeper into, I think, the components you're gonna talk about. We'd love to hear your experience. How'd you get here? How'd you grow up a little bit? Quick little spin, and then we'll get right into it. Sound good?
Sounds great. So I'm very lucky. I've been in the SaaS, software, tech, data, fintech space my whole career. Went to WPI, as you said, and actually graduated with an electrical engineering degree. Never practiced, but do love wiring for some strange reason. But got bit by the software bug in the early 90s, joined a financial services startup, now would be called Fintech, and just got lucky. I've always had a horseshoe in my pocket. That startup got acquired within a year to a company that was basically rolling up all of the other financial services companies in the industry. That company was called SunGard. And so SunGard nowadays is known as FIS and WorldPay. It's kind of this behemoth. I think anything related to financial services and fintech, there's a kind of an arm back into FIS WorldPay. So just got really lucky. During those 10 years, got to see what it was like from really amazing operators on how to run technology, software, and data businesses. And what is old is new. And I think history rhymes, like someone else famous has said. That's all coming true again with like the modern evolution of fintech, which it's data, operations, services, and now just sprinkling AI to help with the labor augmentation. I won't use the word labor replacement. So that was my first career, spent probably until my late 20s, early 30s in that industry. That company, by the time I left, was a $11 billion sale or leverage buyout to KKR, Silver Lake, and BlackRock. So that was a monster of a run, and I was just a little helper. There was, I was just a cog in the wheel, but it was a wonderful experience. That led me to a company in the Boston circles. It's fairly popular nowadays called HubSpot. Got to join because as I left SunGard, two brothers had spun out earlier on and started a business building the first online 401k and retirement platform, as the internet is kind of coming to age and really getting mass adoption. And they had a brilliant idea that more people had more of their personal savings in their 401k than their bank account. And they were like, well, if all the banks are online, why can't we bring the 401k online? And that business just took off. So I did a small 2-year stint with them in and around those SunGard days. And ultimately, it was a boomerang relationship. We sold it back to SunGard. So I ended up back in the mothership after a couple of years of that. And then that led me to HubSpot because one of the founders of that business was the founder of HubSpot. So I was fortunate to join, I think technically as employee 5 if I looked at my employee ID, but literally got to spend 10 years going from day 0 with no revenue, a handful of customers that we called Friends of Brian, who was one of the founders. And we got that through an IPO in 2014. And then that business now, I've long been gone and focused on our new fintech startup, but that business, is a $20+ billion market cap business with 7,000 employees in 20 countries. And that was just an amazing journey. And I think the things that are relevant to where we are today with fintech is inside of that business, they were such a data-driven culture. And most companies say they're data-driven, but Brian and Dharmesh had I don't even know the right word. It wasn't just an appetite. It was an expectation of, in God we trust, everyone else bring data. And the idea for FinQore, where we are building our fintech business today, was actually a shadow of something that HubSpot had built during the IPO years to actually understand the customer and revenue of the business, because the state of the art in the mid 2010s, the first decade of SaaS, has proliferated to the current world where you have verticalized software, you have CRMs, you have billing systems, and none of them talk to each other. And as simple as that sounds, it's not a technical challenge, it's a workflow challenge. And so these organizations, even a brilliant company like HubSpot with billions of dollars of market cap and a couple of $1 billion of annual revenue, the data management challenge for fintech back offices, for payments, invoicing, subscriptions, it is a yard sale. And so that leads us to FinQore today. And about 6 years ago, we decided, one of the original founders of that business I mentioned, the brother of the founder of HubSpot, we've all been friends, decided the world needed to solve this data management problem. So the current business called FinQore has gone through a couple of evolutions, and as like you and I met during COVID, we'll just call it the Purell, Pivot, and Purge days, right? Because those were just bad years. It was hard to build a company then. But once we came out of the COVID fog, and related to the fintech proper space, we realized that that problem that HubSpot had was a microcosm of most tech businesses, fintech businesses, and services businesses. And so we have, for the past few years, built what we believe to be the world's, and I don't like saying the world's first of this or that, or the Tesla of this, but we do believe it is, I'll take the gratuity, the world's first financial CRM that allows a business to not just understand their customers and revenue and accurately report it out, but actually interact with it. And as AI becomes more prominent, action it. And so what you're seeing in this big evolution in this arc of software is you went from mainframes to client server to mobile and to web, but they were all still systems of record. They were record keeping systems. Even back in your Fidelity days, you worked with record keeping systems. What's happening in the world of AI and the air quotes agentic world is they're becoming systems of action, because we can now build software and instruct language models to operate software on behalf of people to do the actual workflows and the work. And so this evolution of just record keeping to now systems of action is where FinQore is playing. And we're just seeing unbelievable results in our customers of the time to receive value. We're not going to talk about traditional use cases anymore, but the time to build a board deck, and I'm sure you had shares of board decks in your career, and those things were monsters of efforts, right? You're trying to get all your reporting right. We have software that, with AI and a human in the loop, because we still believe in a high precision world, which we operate in for fintech. We can produce a board deck in 2 minutes or less. And so you just, the inversion curve of manual labor, manual reporting, manual data prep, manual data analysis, we flipped it on its head, and AI has really enabled that. entire value chain to get delivered in 2 minutes or less. So it's just a brave new world, and that's what we're focused on today. I'd be disingenuous if I said I could tell you what 5 years from now looks like. It is moving so fast, and we're able to build so many capabilities. I'm not saying software, just capabilities and workflows with AI that I think the sky is the limit over the next few years of where these businesses like a FinQore evolves to.
Wow, what an overview! That is awesome.
That's a lot.
No, that's an unbelievable, great story. Now I'd like to go a little deeper on, I might jump around a little bit here because you just hit some gold of what I want to go a couple levels, maybe one or two, even 2 or 3 levels down a little bit. I'd love to hear, especially being at SunGard, big system. I at Fidelity, I did systems with SunGard, right, all the time.
You were the unicorn. Everyone was trying to sell to you.
Yeah. And also another connection. I mean, you talked about it because you did a quick reference. The data. I mean, it's all about the data. Everything is a pretty face on top of data. That's all it is, right? So data, and especially how the bigger the company, the more data they have, the more customer data, the more operational data, the more finance data, and everything costs in a business. So what you're doing in FinQore, and I know it just didn't happen, FinQore. Yeah. You built it from learning all those stories you just told. So I want to talk a little bit first on talent, right? Yeah. You were involved, right? Obviously, big company, SunGard, right? You saw the back and forth with getting bought and rebought, and then HubSpot, right? 5 employees, to woof, right? Huge, right? And now FinQore, which maybe you can. What do you look for in talent? You've seen all different stages, what's the right talent mix for you personally too to lead and manage? I'd love to hear that also, because as a leader, you know, here to here to here, it's about talent. What do you look for in talent at those different, because they're all very different companies and different challenges and different data challenges and different technical, different people challenges in market and different timing with COVID. And so I'd love to hear your take. I know I just gave you like probably another 4 hours worth of talking, but talent and those different stages. What do you look for to really help people think that through?
And it's really attributes and not skills. And I think a lot of people say that, but it couldn't be more true. And the attributes we look for, I don't think we're unique, but I think a lot of people talk about it and then not really pressure test for it. The first one, especially for startups, and especially as startups become and remain more lean going forward, because most newer companies are just AI first, is chemistry. And I know it's a hard thing to quantify, but and a lot of people say, well, you don't have to love your peers or love and like the people that work around you. I actually disagree. You're going to be in the trenches together. And I don't care if you're a small company or a bigger company inside of a smaller team. You actually really need to have good work chemistry. I won't say personal chemistry, but work chemistry. What does that mean is, are you compatible enough where you can make monumental progress, right? Because startups or scale-ups or grown-up companies, you're still trying to make progress. And so I think if you don't have good chemistry, and that's hard to interview for, but it does come out. And so Vipul and I, as founders today, still, I think there's only 2 people we didn't interview due to some unforeseen timing and location circumstances in our business. Brian at HubSpot interviewed the first 150 to 200 people personally. And I think as you're building a company, the chemistry is really important. 2 is curiosity, but curiosity has to be met with commitment. And so I think what I've learned over the past 5 years is the workforce has changed with COVID and work from home and distributed teams and global teams. Is there's a lot of great curious people out there, but are they committed to learning and doing? You can't just be an infinite learn-it-all, because if you're just learning, and you're not doing, and you're not actually getting good at those crafts, you're not going to move your career that much forward or the company that much forward. So we actually really do pressure test on all right, let's see if this person is curious. Let's go down a rat hole of a very specific topic that they're super passionate about, not something that we're passionate about, something the candidate or the teammate's passionate about, and then back that up with tell us details that no one else can tell us. Like educate us, teach us, pretend we're the 5-year-old. And if a person has truly mastered that thing that was a curiosity or a spark, and it could have been building a marketplace for their uncle's business as an example, right? It could have been helping a friend do some field work, studying worms. Like I'm just making crazy examples up. But if you really pressure test the commitment to the learning, not just the learning, because a lot of people just love learning, I think you find people that are special, because once they've mastered that thing, they're going to go on to the next thing. And so we're just constantly looking for people that like are compatible with us, with the chemistry, that are exceptionally curious to learn the really last inches of knowledge about a given topic that's relevant. And then third, committed to actually doing, not talking, and building with that knowledge. And finding all three of those is pretty hard. But if you're patient and you spend enough time and energy meeting and learning people, you'll get those three, in different form factors.
Wow. And I agree 100% with, it's all about the people. It's all about people working together. I'm a big sports guy. Yeah. And I mean, you don't have to, love, you don't have to love the person you're playing on the court with, but when they're open, I don't care if you like them or not. If they're open, you give them the ball. You give them the ball and you let them score. It's about the team at that point.
And you have to trust that they're going to deliver.
Right. And they're in the right spot. They did their right. They're in the right place. You don't go like, no, I don't like that person. I'm not giving the ball. I'm going that way instead. So I'm big into like, be a team. When you step on the carpet of your company, you are on the court. Let's go. Right? And let's help each other and pick each other up. So I love that mentality. Now, to help with that mentality and that culture, right? What do you look for in the management, right? The leadership, because you can have great, and people doing the job. You need that, but you need leadership too that has that philosophy to keep fostering and growing it and getting people to speak and talk and help each other and pick each other up. What do you look for from a manager, a leader standpoint? Because again, very different when you 5 employees to
5,000.
thousands.
Yeah. So we definitely look for player coaches and people that still enjoy the hands-on keyboard. And it was interesting. We were actually interviewing a candidate to potentially be a future sales leader here. Because of your sports analogy, they're a former college football assistant coach. So they are in the sports. And he said something that I'll attribute to him. He's like, at a startup, you just have to enjoy the suck. And it just hit me really hard in a good way. And I was like, that is so important as you're looking for leaders, because a leadership job is not all roses. It's a lot of the suck, which is coaching, mentoring, being hands-on, and being the best practitioner you can be in a given skill, right? Because an engineer, they want to work for a manager that is a better engineer than them and ups their game, right? And so just like in football, and again, I'm not a sports person, but I imagine when you're working with a passing coach, you want the best instructions that you can get. And so we look for leadership that is really, they love the craft of what they do. So if you're an engineering manager, you love being an engineer, right? But you also have the capabilities to coach, mentor, be patient, but have high expectations, right? And I think those are kind of opposing forces, right? High expectations, but you still have to have some patience. And so if we can thread those needles on the leadership part, and I do think AI is going to change this even further on the hands-on, because the definition of middle management is already getting squeezed, right? You see these in big tech companies that are kind of eliminating layers of management. They call it bureaucracy. I'm not sure it's really that. I just think about the efficiency in these workflows in businesses now. It doesn't need to be a 7-10 or 7-12 ratio anymore. You can have 30 people working in your team if that team is highly collaborative and using AI to do a lot of the coordination and collaboration work. Yep.
Yeah, that is great. Yeah, and that flexibility and helping each other. You're growing that every day, in every role you're in, Jim.
Yeah.
I got another little question for you, and you have it right in your FinQore, formerly known as SaaSworks. I have a question on that. So
Yeah.
I remember you when I first met you, it was SaaSworks,
Yeah.
right? And then you pivoted to FinQore. I'd love to know, is there a story behind that? And is it a pivot? Was it a technical pivot? Was it a philosophy pivot? Or was it just a better name pivot?
No,
to connect with different customers? I don't know.
Quite a pivot. So what is old is new. When we started the business, we wanted to go after the data wrangling problem. But we got a little lost along the way because you always listen to customers. And the business was started at the onset of COVID. And we had raised capital right before kind of things shut down. And during COVID, there was a lot of needs around customer success and customer enablement because most businesses themselves were trying to keep their customers. So you had an economy that basically got put on ice. And so if you were a software company, the good news is there was a lot of capital in the markets that was very low cost. Therefore, people were buying a lot of software, but they were buying it in order to help retain their customers. So our original, we want to be the best financial data platform, got a little derailed into, well, how do we help customers and engage with their customers? Because we had this really interesting data set. You fast forward to the end of COVID, when the SaaS markets kind of corrected themselves after that very low cost of capital bull run. And we realized we needed to get back to our roots of financial data management because the market had rapidly changed. So the name was not just symbolic. It was we realized that the most value we could deliver to our customers was this financial data management, this system of record or CRM, and evolving this into a system of action. And the core actually stands for something. It's quality of revenue and earnings, meaning we can, and that's a fancy term that auditors use, they pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a one-time report that tells you how quality is your revenue and earnings. PwC, Deloitte, KPMG charge every year a large amount of money to do this by hand. And so when we realized we could apply AI, that the financial data was the gold and less about that customer enablement data, we figured it was the right time to do a rebrand. But short of actually stopping and restarting the company, we went right to the edge of that because we really also embraced AI right at that point in time because we knew AI would fundamentally change how we sold our software, how we enabled customers to benefit from the platform. And most importantly, we always believed in human intelligence is layering in human expertise on top of that data management platform. So it was a pivot, it was a purge, it was Purell, it was COVID, and we just were fortunate, Rob. We came out the other side with what we thought a bulletproof business plan and a business idea to really help businesses.
And I remember when we were doing the project at SaaSworks, the project transformed into that AI data science. Like originally, that wasn't the thought.
Yeah.
So I don't. Was that? I mean, and then the name changed after that project. Did that help you or hurt you?
It did.
So insight.
It did. That project, if you remember, was actually around customer retention, which is in the sweet spot of the customer enablement side.
Right.
And so the other, we're not good marketers. Most people aren't. Maybe ChatGPT will help us all be better marketers. The name of SaaSworks was actually clever, but not helpful. We believe that most businesses wanted to become SaaS-like. So the name actually meant we can make SaaS work, and we know that SaaS business model works. Again, not great marketing, but when we were doing the project with you to bring it full circle, it was churn prediction and analysis is exceptionally hard. My co-founder Vipul would probably argue there's not enough PhDs at WPI or MIT to actually solve that mathematically. And I think we learned that painfully. So that project with WPI was exceptionally helpful to bring clarity that, again, because we had four very smart students and a very smart advisor, and we couldn't even solve that problem then.
And you hired one of them eventually.
We did hire one. Michael's doing great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow. You're welcome. No.
Yeah, thank you.
So how about well, it's interesting with the SaaSworks. I was thinking, this is my totally wrong thinking. I was thinking because it was right when agentic AI started. I didn't hear that term until January. I'm sure you heard it well before I did. And I was wondering, did they change SaaS words because they're saying agentic AI is gonna, totally, change how SaaS is defined, and it's going to be replaced with agentic AI and expert agents. I didn't know if that related to it at all. That was my first thinking when I saw that name change.
Yeah.
But then again, that could be wrong thinking. Did it relate to that at all? Or no?
It was an influence for sure.
Yeah.
We really did believe that AI was going to, and this sounds a little controversial, but there's a lot of people that have used the term SaaS is dead. I don't think it's dead.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But I do think it's evolving into this, other people are now saying services as software versus software as service. Because with AI, the delivery model feels more like a services model, right? Which is, hey, Rob, you need a board deck? We'll generate it with AI for you. You just get to enjoy it without the labor. Hey, Rob, you need a flash report for your investors? Here's a flash report. You didn't have to do anything. You talked to an AI. The AI did the work. It's like having a junior analyst on your staff. Yeah. So to bring it full circle on that name change, agentic wasn't a term at that point in time, but AI was clearly approaching a usable state that we knew it was going to change how people looked at the SaaS industry and how we honestly thought the SaaS industry needed to change. So we've been saying outcomes and outputs versus inputs in software for 5 years. And so we're very happy to see this hopefully become true.
Wow. Please come back to part 2 with Jim O'Neill as we hear Jim's perspective on ever-changing technology and AI as a CTO, co-founder, and industry leader. Thank you for listening to What the Heck, Fintech. Make sure you tune into our next episode as we continue to interview fintech leaders and share real-world stories from across the fintech ecosystem so you can fully understand that fintech is FinLife.